Hi, I'm Romy Cordier from Romy Cordier Design. Today I'm helping some friends of mine turn their second bedroom into a home office to meet with clients. They're huge fans of the arts and crafts period, so we've decided to make a mural based on the work of Charles Rennie Mackintosh. So let's get started. So this is the mural that I've created for the room. The mural helps us separate the room into two regions. The lower region is going to be the seating area, and this grid that's here actually almost acts as a wainscoting, and it divides the room from the upper area, which is going to have the decorative aspect, which are these large-scale roses. These roses are inspired by the work of Charles Rennie Mackintosh, and sometimes the rose is actually referred to as the Glasgow, Scotland logo. There seems to be a spirit that comes through in using plant life with the grid and the geometry that you'll see in his architecture and in his furniture design. And the rose was just that little bit of warmth. It made it more human and less sterile. Now, the Victorian era was the area that was very prominent before this new kind of modernism that was taking place at the turn of the 20th century. So this grid pattern you'll see in the work of Gustav Stickley, Charles Rennie Mackintosh, and Frank Lloyd Wright. It helps separate the Victorian era from the new modernism that marked the 20th century. You'll look at the Willow Tea Rooms and the Hill House and a couple of his other homes here, and you'll see how clean and light and fresh these homes look. They're not cluttered. There's beautiful adornments on the wall with a lot of sketches, a lot of murals. They actually used a lot of murals in this time period to help tie in the furniture to the rooms. Charles Rennie Mackintosh only completed 10 of his architectural designs. However, he created over 400 pieces of furniture that still stand the test of time today. Think about IKEA, Danish modern, clean, crisp lines. The bookcases, the furniture, do it yourself, put it together. A lot of clean, simple, square lines. Those things started at the turn of the 20th century with people like Charles Rennie Mackintosh and Frank Lloyd Wright. All right, let's get this furniture out of here and make the magic happen. What we're gonna do is put down white, our undercolor, for the grid, and that'll give us a clean palette to work from on this wall here. I forgot my toolbox today, so I didn't bring the spackling paste with us. So what we did is we used toothpaste to fill in the little holes on the wall, so that way when we paint over this, it'll be very smooth. So this white color that I'm putting down is gonna be the underneath area for our grid. So I'm just gonna put it in the approximate area that I know our grid is gonna go. Right now we're gonna paint the roses. So I've got two 2-ounce sample paints from Benjamin Moore. One is pink raspberry and one is razzle dazzle. I'm going to pour these into the container here. I'm not going to stir them up. I actually want them to stay separate in terms of their tonality. I want to create a little variety in the overall effect of the rose instead of having one solid opaque color. So I've poured our sample colors in here together like this, and then I'm just going to work back and forth with a wet paintbrush. We're using a wet paintbrush because that way it helps the paint move easier on the wall. And I'm just going to create kind of an irregular odd shape that I will actually define later with the dark color that we're going to use next. I'm putting this on fairly thick also because I do want one coat to cover this. It actually works nice having the darker red around the edge. It creates more roundness in the flower. I started with our center rose first. That way we'll know how to position the two roses that are going to go beside it on either side. We're using water-based paints. They're easier for cleanup. They blend easily. They're also just so much easier. They're easy to work with, and they're also a little bit safer. You're not inhaling a lot of toxic fumes. It's not like it's going to get wet in here or anything like that. If it does, you'll be moving out. And I'm also making each one of these roses a little irregular in shape. They're not perfectly oval or perfectly round. I want them slightly askew and a little bit cattywampus. No flower is perfectly round. They're not round in nature, then they shouldn't be round on this wall. So if you decide to take on this project at home, don't worry about this being absolutely perfect. What we want is irregularity. We want to look like it's been brushed on so that there's a little tonal change here. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect when it comes to the color of these roses. So what we're going to do right now is take 1-inch tape and make 5 horizontal tape marks across the wall. I've marked on the wall at 35 inches, 36, 37, 38 on up. The X's let me know where it's going to be dark. So it helps me count out my white stripes, because wherever I put the tape, it's going to be white when I peel the tape back off. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lines here. I'll have 5 lines going across here, and that will create the grid in the center. We're going to take another sample color by Benjamin Moore called Pear Green, and we're just going to paint in these little squares here. These are going to be our accent color that are going to stay after everything else is painted dark. When picking colors at home, think about the overall effect you want. Do you want it restful or do you want it energizing? If everything is monochromatic, it's going to be very restful. If you have contrasting tones, contrasting colors on the color wheel, it's going to have more energy and create a little bit more dynamic feeling in the room. If you want harmony, you want a calming feeling, choose 3 variations of colors side by side on the color wheel. A red brown, a red, and an orange red. They're all going to be close to each other on the color wheel, so they create a sense of harmony in the room. If you go across the color wheel to the opposite side of red, which is green, you'll actually create tension between the colors. So it's something to consider when you're looking for a spike or a complementary color. And look at what's across it, and that might help you find that one thing that sort of brings your mural or your color palette to life. Our final color that we're going to use here today is Dunn Edwards Cavern. The rest of the wall is going to be painted dark, and the dark is what's going to give us the contrast with the white stripes, the green squares, and the pink of the flowers. A mural like this has many applications. This would be great in a dining room. It would be great in a home office. It could even be used in a bedroom. Wherever you want to create a sense of intimacy in a room, something like this would be really, really wonderful. The question comes down to how much time do you have to actually make the mural. But I've seen images of Charles Rennie Mackintosh dining rooms where he did murals on all 4 walls, and it's just a super, super warm, wonderful, inviting feeling. So now I'm going to start working the dark color up into and around the edges of the flower. I'm going to leave as much of the flower itself as I can, and then I'll come back with a paintbrush to create the actual edges of this. But I want to leave as much of this exposed as I can, so I've got room to create the petals and keep the flower as large as possible. This color Cavern by Dunn Edwards is a really beautiful brown because it's a brownish gray, so it means it's got a little bit of gold in there, it's got a little bit of blue, so it can work in both warm and cool color palettes. That's why I use this color so often in my murals and in my other paintings at home and stuff, and my wall colors. It really allows for a lot of flexibility. It's a great neutral color. So you might be thinking to yourself, why in the world would you want to have a dark wall, a wall this dark in your home? It's going to make the room look small. I think that is the biggest fallacy of interior design. A wall that's dark can actually draw your eyes up to the height of the room, to the width of the room, and also sometimes when a wall is dark, it falls away from your vision. You don't really see it. Something that's light comes towards you. When it's dark, it just sort of falls away. So I think you can actually create a great optical illusion in a small room by making it look larger with a dark wall. And it doesn't mean all walls have to be dark, but just one wall. It makes a really big difference. So what we're going to do now is take this paintbrush and whittle it down to a point so that we can go in here and create the petals of the flower. And these paintbrushes are pretty inexpensive. They're under $1, so if you mess them up, no big deal. But I just want to get a nice point so it's like a watercolor brush. And so I'm going to create oval shapes and boomerang shapes. And this will actually give me the petals of the flower. I'm going to start in the center and work my way to the edges. And you can see I've created a sort of off-center oval in here. And as I work away from the center, the petals will get larger and larger. What makes this a Mackintosh rose is the fact that you're looking at it from a plan view from the top. You're not looking at it from the side. So you can see what I do is I push these lines as far as I can to the edge of the flower. And then when I've gone out as far as I can, I erase the edge here. And then the flower almost appears as it's coming through the paint. Okay, we're putting the finishing touches on the last rose, and then we're going to show you the big reveal. We're going to take all this tape off and show you the whole mural. So here's our finished home office. We've got 2 great chairs we got at the thrift store for about $10. Table our clients already had, fresh flowers, stylized roses on the wall, the grid pattern with the little green spike of color. I think it turned out pretty great. I think Charles Rennie Mackintosh would be very proud. I'm Romy Cordier, Designing Better Living.